Yeah.
I am a flannel gangster today.
Okay.
I'm still
I got
trying
mine.
to recycle.
This hat is remarkable.
Okay,
Bought a new stock for it.
it's
It's
actually a couple minutes after 6 o'clock. So this is the NBC meeting for Tuesday, November 30th. Let's all stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Eisenhower who added the under God to the pledge.
Everything's on, right, Bill?
Everything should be on.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Yep, no, I appreciate
right?
that. Say again?
Does it look right to you, John? Okay.
Looks okay. I got some sort of lights and stuff, so.
Corner, Kevin's.
Okay, so we'll go with the roll. Ms. Bobian is excused today. Mr. Bilodeau?
Yes.
Ms. Bradbury?
Yes.
Mr. Cresswell?
Yes.
Mr. Langlois?
Yes.
Ms. Messier?
Yes.
Ms. Quinn?
Yes.
Alden Dill?
Yes.
Mr. Roy?
Here.
Mr. Verval? And I am here. Okay, so let's put that out of the way and move on. I think I sent everybody the minutes. Did everyone have a chance to review those? Any changes, suggestions?
Moved as written.
And if so, then we'll move to Alden, Zach
Is written.
moves to approve. Jocelyn seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Everybody was here, so it's unanimous, with the exception of Ms. Bobian. And let's go on to, I don't know if we have any unfinished business. I think we finished up pretty much everything last week, so I don't think we have any outstanding business. So let's move on right on to new
Chairman?
business. Yes,
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Langlois.
Just had a quick question from the school board to the committee here. So if I can throw that out there to get a sense of the committee, it'd be great. And that is the architects that are working on the pricing and the plans for the addition on the school have offered to come to the NBC and discuss that project. And I wanted to know if the NBC would like to do that. If so, I can work with them and then work with you, Mr. Chairman, as far as finding a suitable date for that.
What's the time frame for that? I know it bid yesterday.
Bids are being reviewed tomorrow. It may not be that pricing is ready yet from the architects, but it may be an opportunity for the committee to see what the plans are looking like and what the general thought in that process is gonna be. Pricing is gonna be probably sometime end of December, January, before we have hard numbers. So this would be more to review what the plans are looking like and what the final kind of direction and the way everything's taking shape is starting to look like.
Okay, and what type of time frame are you talking?
It sounds like they could be fairly flexible and available at one of the upcoming meetings. So I think ultimately, if the sense of the board is that they want to hear from the architects and talk to them, I would then work with them and you, Mr. Chairman, to schedule it for one of the upcoming meetings.
Okay, ideally, would like to perhaps do it next week at our next meeting, if they're
Okay.
available. But let's get a consensus of everybody on the board. Does everybody
I
agree that,
just had a question, real quick.
sure.
You guys are putting a warrant article through on this, correct?
Correct.
Would it make more sense to have them come in when we have the numbers for the warrant article?
That certainly, if that's the approach that the committee would like to take, I'm fine with that. I think it's going to push it a little bit later into the season. But certainly am agreeable to whatever this committee decides they'd like to do.
Personally, I'd like to be able to digest some of their ideas beforehand, but whatever the will of the board is, we'll go with that. Before the warrant article comes out and we review it, I'd like to be able to have some time to kind of digest.
See what we're looking at.
Yeah, kind of talk to them. Perhaps some questions will come up at the time.
I think that's a big reason why they're offering to come and do that.
It's up to the board. Yes, Mr. Roy.
Speaking for myself, the more information, the better, so I'm happy to have them.
Sure. Anyone else? other input? Yes,
No.
Maureen?
I'm also very happy to hear from them. I'm wondering, is next meeting is supposed to be the discussion of the school budget, right?
So, I guess to slide into that, our next meeting is tomorrow night. We'll be working on the budget again. I spoke with the superintendent earlier today. There's still a little bit of information we're trying to button up. So whether or not we can move it tomorrow is yet to be determined. I think, if the information can get inputted, we'll be able to, but I don't necessarily want to commit to that until we have a better answer. I'll certainly be able to provide to Mr. Von Hassel on Thursday morning what the status is at that point, if we were able to wrap it all up tomorrow night or not.
I just want to make sure we have enough time to really go through
Yeah,
the
and
school
typically
budget.
that first meeting, when we do give the budget to the committee, it's kind of delivered to the committee, and then we give a pretty quick, high-level, these are the changes, this is what we're looking at, and then usually the heavier part of the discussion usually starts at the following meeting. But again, certainly willing to work with the committee from that standpoint any way we can, but we certainly have to button it up on our end before we can deliver it to the NBC.
So,
In which case, we'd have more time to
yes,
talk with the architect.
yes. Mr. Bilodeau?
I guess I'm wondering, there was some discussion last we met, about not having the Saturday, December 4th meeting. Is that still on the table?
I'd still like to keep that as an option. I prefer not to, but let's see if we can get through all this stuff tonight. I'd certainly be more than agreeable to waive it, because I'm not gonna be able to be here. Ms. Bradbury's not gonna be able to be here,
I just realized I'm not gonna be able to be here.
and you're not gonna, okay.
I
So,
don't think Ms. Bodie, I can't.
you can't either, so,
Mr. Chairman, I've been asked to work that day as well, so.
okay, so, I mean, I
It's
think
not
that this
happening anyway.
decision's kind of being made for us at this point, but let's try to kind of move through this, do our due diligence on what we have right now, and then hopefully we can, honestly, if we don't do the Saturday, since the first school review, you're prepared to provide the budget for next week, I hope.
Hopefully, but
It's-
again, I can let you know Thursday morning.
It's typically a pretty light meeting, so we would have time to wrap up anything that would be outstanding on the town budget, and then talk to the people, the designers, if they're available, and then kind of just get an overview of the school budget, if that works for you.
So if that's suitable to the committee, what I would say is, I have a meeting tomorrow for the building committee, and I can check with the architects and see if they'll be available. The only request I would make is if we can possibly schedule them for the beginning of the NBC meeting, so we don't have them tied up all night waiting for us to get to that part.
Certainly would try to do our best.
Okay.
Depends on whether we have some loose ends to wrap up, then we could slide them right in to wrap up. It depends. Let's see if they're even available first.
So is
Okay.
the sense that we want to try to make it, we try for next Tuesday then?
I think so. Is that the sense of everybody here, that we could try, if we could, try to schedule it for next Tuesday
All right?
at our regular meeting? That would be great. And we'll do our due diligence to get through this tonight. Anything else?
No, I think that covers my end on the school, and again, just as it's not a numbers meeting next week. If we are able to get them here, it's more to talk about the design and what we're looking at for
Sure.
overall project scope. Okay.
Yep, understood. Okay, so the first the budget presentation review would be the town clerk tax collector. I see Kelly is here. So Kelly, if you could step up to the microphone over there. And John, is it number 3 here that moves the camera?
And it's page number 3
And it's
in a really
And
good
it's page number 3. And Kelly, you gave us a ton of information, so I appreciate that. And so we are looking at the town clerk, tax collector budget for $139,266, which is an increase of $19,516, or a 16.30% increase. Motion to open it for discussion, move the Budget.
I'll make a motion to move the number 139,266 for the town clerk tax collector.
Okay, so motion made by Mr. Bilodeau, second by Maureen Quinn. And so we're open for discussion. Kelly, thanks for showing up and providing some insight into this.
Thank you for inviting me.
Sure, anytime. So tell us a little bit about what your thought process is here. I see that it looks like the full-time employee position is increasing by about $16,463, which is a 19.86% increase over the previous year.
Yes.
Okay?
Did all of you receive the backup?
Can you speak into the microphone?
Did all of you receive the backup?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay.
I did. Yep,
So-
everybody? Okay.
The thought process behind my budget, and I mainly am going to speak to what I'm calling equity adjustments, is to bring both myself and my deputy up to professional standard lines of payment. I'm calling this an equity adjustment because that's, if you look at the research and what we did, we're trying to bring our pay to comparable standards. So the responsibility of the town clerk it is the responsibility of the town clerk to advocate for her staff and for her pay. And typically you would see this in through the budget. But the way we presented this year, we're doing it twofold. We're doing it through the budget, and we're also proposing a warrant article should the other not pass. The reason why we're doing it that way is to better increase the chance of us getting the wage that we're asking for, and to give it to the voters for them to decide. The past decade or so, I think it has been hard. I don't know if it's because of the financial crisis, the economy, the pandemic. It's been hard to get a budget to pass, and it's been particularly hard for the town clerk, whether it was myself or my predecessor, to have their wages at a fair level. And it's hard to advocate for that when obviously we're going through some extraordinary times, and in particular with the town's inability to pass a budget. So the town clerk can only by law get a raise if the voters approve it. And the only way that can happen is through the budget or through a warrant article. Typically, you would see in a community a warrant article for a pay increase for the town clerk and not the deputy. But because we're in such serious circumstances right now, as far as getting us up to a livable wage, that's why I've included the both of us. It's that important that I felt that we would combine it, see how the voters felt, and go from there. I do think that it is well backed up, and it's well supported, and I really am looking for your support. This isn't going to be a normal occurrence. Hopefully as budgets pass or don't, we won't have to take such an extreme measure. But we just want you to know that we want your support, that we're working very hard for you, and I would be glad to answer any questions, and I really hope that you've spent time going through this and kind of understood some of the reasoning behind our request. So if you have any specific questions?
Mr. Verrill, excuse me.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Ms. Roberts, for coming in. Do you happen to have the language for the warrant article?
I do.
It's
Could
on
you-
the- It's on the first page.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't bring it, so I missed that.
Would you like me to read it?
I can read it. I can read it if you'd like.
Sure.
Just read it into the minutes. To see if the town will raise and appropriate the sum of $20,318, which represents an equity pay adjustment for both the town clerk, tax collector, and the deputy town clerk, tax collector, and increasing the salary line from $82,406 to $99,100, resulting in the clerk collector base salary equal to $58,100 and the deputy base salary equal to $41,000, plus combined payroll taxes of $3,624.26. The purpose is to bring both positions' wages to comparable standards and should not be confused with merit raises. Should this article pass, it would only be funded in the event that the 2022 operating budget fails to pass. These adjustments would be effective January 1, 2022. Estimated tax impact of this article will be an increase of .0025 per 1,000 valuation, .0025 cents per $1,000 valuation, correct?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
So I did read this, I forgot to bring it with me tonight, and I apologize for that. So I think the tack that you're taking is an excellent one. You know, I've advocated that the salary adjustments for all municipal employees should be divvied up into, you know, 1, 2, maybe 3 warrant articles and not buried into the operating budget that has well over a 15% proposed increase year on year. You have my full support on that warrant article, and your office does great work. You've really modernized that office. You guys certainly do deserve it, and I wish you the best of luck with it in March. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Verwill. Any other questions? Kelly, I had one. Was it, I noticed that you looked at a number of other towns, and they're pretty well spread out throughout
Yes.
New Hampshire. I see Walpole and Milton and all that in here. New London, Greenland. Was it primarily based on population, or was it based on number of licenses or activity?
I am so happy you asked that question, because that was one thing in particular I wanted to stress tonight, is when we put together our presentation, I've got information for the other part too, that you don't have, but I can share with you. But we gathered data from towns that have similar population, have a combined town clerk tax collector's office, not 2 separate departments, and has a full-time deputy. So when you look at towns, we are all so different. It's unbelievable. So we had to find communities of a similar population, office structure, all that stuff, and find out what they were making, what their hours were, you know, the duties that they had. And so we're trying to show you in this packet what towns like us, what they're getting. I did, for preparation, both Kim and I did prepare, because one of the comments I've been kind of hearing in the peripheral is, well, how come you didn't ask Northwood, or how come you didn't ask Epsom? Or so we did put together an Excel spreadsheet with Chichester, Candia, Pittsfield, Northwood, Allenstown, Lee, Barnstead, Epsom, Chester, Auburn, and Barrington, and they are so different from us. They're either just a town clerk's office, not a combined tax collector. Maybe they only have a part-time deputy. Maybe their population is kind of above or below where we are. So I do have that data if anyone's interested in what like our very close neighbors are. If you want me to share that with you, or I can make a copy of this. But the point is to find. You know, I could have found like the town where the clerk was making $99,000 a year, but
Sure.
you know,
You didn't pick that one?
no,
Have you put an offer in on a house in that one?
no. So, thank you for that question.
Sure. Is it possible, would the board want to just kind of pass that piece, that Excel spreadsheet around, just glance at it, see if there are any questions that come up?
It seems like we're pretty easy on this budget. I think we can, if there's not any other questions, I think we can move the question here.
Kelly, it's not a question, but before you put the warrant article into the process, it's got one little typo, third line from the bottom. The word "to," 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 words from the end of that line should be removed.
Can you start at the front of the sentence?
Yeah, the beginning of the line says purpose is to bring both positions' wages to comparable standards and should not "to" be confused. The "to,"
Gotcha.
okay.
Yes, Mr. Burwell.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one last question, just to be clear. So, and you're 100% sure the select board is putting that question on the March ballot, yes?
I was at, and forgive me, I forget the exact date, I was at a selectman meeting, I think in October or November. We discussed it, and Andy was still on the board at the time, and they said that they would support a warrant article.
Then I guess I'll move the question over to the select
Yes.
board representative. Is that your are we sure that question's going on the ballot?
Right now, it's on our draft warrant articles, yes.
Great, thank you.
So don't forget to fix the typo.
We send them out to get typo checked before we put them out.
Okay.
Okay, if you could just give us a second, we can just run through this, and then we'll, I know the budget was moved, but we didn't get a second on it, so.
It wasn't an official movement, it was more of
Oh.
a suggestion.
Well,
I'll
okay.
leave
I
that to
would
Phil.
second the movement if that's helpful.
All right, if we can just finish up this briefly, and I think if there are any questions, we want to make sure we capture them now, based on the information. What do you feel is your biggest challenge at this point for the department? I think you've computerized about as much as you possibly can. It looks like there's space issues, but, those may go away shortly, who knows? We don't know.
That's a great question, and thank you for asking that as well. One of the things that we do, Kim and I, is we are always thinking about the future. And yeah, we have credit cards now, and but I'm gonna be honest with you, our transaction load and our workload is big. We can handle it, but it is big, and we got a lot going on. I would like to possibly present a warrant article next year for a part-time position, an additional clerk on the counter. One of the complaints, when I first came into office, the first complaint I had was, how come you don't take credit cards? And so we addressed that. Now the complaint I have is your hours. And so without additional help or workforce, I'm not going to be able to do that. We're getting to a point where, taxes keep going up, houses keep being built. We do over $1 million in motor vehicles. We did over 10 grand in motor vehicles today alone. And as a side, this morning, before we even opened our doors, we collected over $2.8 million. That was this morning. So we're hopping, and we got a stack of bills that we still got to put in. So really big picture, back to your question down the road, we need help. We need to get our salaries where we need them, where we can live And we need to think about, as our population grows and building grows, getting maybe another clerk in there. And another thing I'm big on is technology. That will really make transactions go a lot faster. But I gotta work on one thing at a time.
Sure. Okay. Has everybody had a chance to take a look at that? Any questions? No? Okay. Okay, so seeing none, I'll accept a motion to accept the budget for a town clerk, tax collector, $139,266,
already
which is
moved.
which is an increase of $19,516, or 16.30% increase.
Second.
Second, Mr. Langlois, second.
It had been moved earlier,
Yeah, Phil moved it, and Maureen Quinn seconded.
so you're just voting on it.
Yeah, so, okay, so, I just want to be sure. So, okay, all in favor then?
Aye.
It's unanimous. All opposed? 0. Okay, any abstentions? None? Okay, thank you.
I have a-
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Are we doing that as a 9-0-0 or a 10-0-0?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
I had
6,
the
7,
same
8, 9.
You're not
I don't
voting. Okay,
vote
thank you.
unless there's a tie. So it's going to be 9-0-0. And good luck with the warrant article.
That does make the transcriptionist life easier
Yep,
when we have a number.
sure.
I have a question before I leave. Are you guys doing election meeting budget tonight?
No, we already did that one.
We did that.
You did?
Yep.
When?
We're
It was a pretty easy one.
Oh,
Yeah, because
trying to move a little bit.
it wasn't
Oh.
too much there. Yeah.
that's my budget. I wasn't aware you guys did
Oh,
it.
I mean,
Mr. Chairman?
yes, Mr. Verville.
So,
Just a minute.
Mr. Roberts, when we get the budget, one of the first orders of business is to go through budgets that year on year have little to no discussion
Oh,
and
okay.
get unanimous
Yeah.
votes in support. That is one of those budgets, and that's why we
Okay.
processed it. Had there been questions, we would have tabled it.
Okay,
now.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, there didn't appear to be a substantial change, and, from year to year, those are the budgets that we typically try to take care of right away.
I just brought it just so I could do it, but,
Not a problem.
We're
I don't
good.
believe we made any adjustments to it. I think it
Okay.
went right through,
okay.
so,
Thank you for having me.
okay, sure. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Okay, so, next on my agenda is Parks and Rec. Nick Lawrence.
What page is that on, Bill?
That's page 68. Thank you very much for showing up.
Thank you for having me.
So, we have the Parks and Rec budget for $102,503, which is a $32,400 increase, a 46.22% increase over the previous year.
Well, it's been asked.
Any motions to, anybody?
So
So-
moved.
Yep, so moved.
Second.
Okay, moved by Ms. Bradbury, second by Mr. Langlois. You're good to go.
Okay, so thanks again for having me. The three major changes that make up the budget, and they kind of have, we've submitted it, I think, the last few years this way, are the movement of the assistant director salary in our department from 50% to 100% from the town budget. And then you look down, we have an ask of $3,300 in the old home day line, just to help support that. That has traditionally been an event that's 100% subsidized by the recreation department without much help. We do receive donations that help offset some of the costs year to year. And then the summer entertainment series, just looking for some support from the community from that, as well as that has also been 100% subsidized by the Parks and Rec department and the revolving fund, which the revenue, as most of you probably know, that comes from programs that we take fees for. And that's where the majority of our revenue comes from. So happy to answer any questions about that.
Any questions?
Nick, what programs are you hoping to have at the summer event series this year?
So traditionally, we haven't done it in the past couple of years because of COVID, but we normally invite a few bands, 4 to 5 bands, depending on what we can get for the money, and do that over at the gazebo. It's usually called Family Fun Night. A couple of years ago, I think we did, we backed down to 2 of them during COVID. But yeah, so we're just trying to get, that sense of community back. I think that's extra important this year as well, as people start to try to achieve that new sense of normalcy. So again, we bring bands in. We've brought in magical shows in the past. We've had a BMX rider do a show in the past, just to mix it up, throw different things out there, and get people in town stuff to enjoy.
And just to follow up, Mr.
Sure.
Chair. So in the past, this has been funded by the income from the sports and rec programs?
100%.
Okay.
Mr. Dill?
And the issue that came up was, especially with the old home days, it was just taking too much of the money away from those other programs to fund those completely, and that's why they're in the budget now. Was to get, those are not money-making events, especially Old Home Day, so this was a way that we could keep supporting them and have it paid for.
So I had a question. What was the motivation to move the assistant salary over to the town? Previously, it had been 50-50 share.
So again, I think when the warrant article was proposed, it was a 50% share with the revolving fund. And the revolving fund is designed to have money come in and go out with the programs themselves.
Sure.
So that's a substantial thing that we have to factor in every time we set fees for any type of program. And in order to keep programs affordable and accessible to people in the community, we think it'd be a huge benefit if we can have that, support from the town to move that to 100%.
Also,
Yes, Mr. Dill.
don't forget that in the last 2 years, we've had a real heavy decrease in the amount of programming we've been able to put out. So rather than completely wiping that revolving fund out, this is a way for the town to have the cost on it.
I'm sorry.
Because the problem that happens is when we have less and less programs, the limited amount of families are basically paying to keep that going, and it's just not fair for those limited families to share that cost that should go townwide, because the assistant director works townwide.
Sure. So what, do you know what the current balance is in the revolving fund by any chance?
I do. So as of today's report that went out, we have a balance of $75,987.90, which is up $9,606.20 from last year, just due to having programs coming back in and finally starting to be functionable and generating revenue again. But that 75,000 is only 4,000 above our end mark of 2019, because it was around 71,000 at that point.
So in 2020, I'm sorry, what was it? In 2000, you had 71,000?
So the end of 2019, we were around 71,000.
Okay.
And then last year, we dropped to 66. And I would note that we also lost our assistant director during COVID, our current one at the time. We had to reduce his hours to what we had in our budget. And he had really no choice but to seek other employment at that time, because we couldn't offer him full-time hours with our revenue.
Okay. Do you view this as a permanent transition to 100%?
That's the goal. That's the goal. Looking at other comparable rec departments too, if they have an assistant director, you don't usually see that as a split between 2 different funding sources. It's usually full-time positions. You traditionally see those come out of town money. I would note that.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Quinn?
Could you just, if you have that number, what your expenditures are as compared to the fund balances that you have?
You're looking for the total year to year?
Yeah, please.
So, let's see, so we have, let me just take a look here. So 2021 revenue I have at $133,716.17, compared to our expenses are $124,109.97.
Okay.
Again, that's a profit, looks as a profit of $9,606.20.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Sure, I'm sorry,
that's fine.
Mr. Bilodeau, sorry.
So, as some of us may wish this budget would pass, some of us are realistic in thinking that maybe it won't pass. So if he goes to a default, if this program goes to a default budget, would they still intend to increase the part-time position to full-time?
No, it's not a part-time, full-time, it's a split on where the payment's coming from.
It's,
Okay, so
They're
will
just
the-
cha-
so then the payment would
yeah,
remain for the fund, revolving fund?
I'm not entirely, yes, yes.
yeah. I think all they're doing is just changing where the source of the funds is coming
Okay,
from. In the
I-
past, they shared.
I misunderstood in the description, so, thank you.
Sure. Any other questions? I'm sorry, Mr. Verwell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for coming in, Nick. I apologize, I forgot your last name, so I don't mean to be informal,
Oh,
but,
that's okay, Lawrence.
thank you, Mr. Lawrence. So I'm assuming I misheard or you misspoke. The revolving fund for funding parks and recs is relatively new, right? There was a warrant article to set that up,
That was in 2008.
2008. That warrant article didn't have language in it saying that the assistant director's salary would be split between the revolving fund and the general fund, did it?
Correct, because that position did not exist at that time.
So it was a gentleman's agreement that the position would be split. There's nothing, no warrant article that defines that, is that correct? Okay, because if it was in the article, right, then you couldn't do it.
Correct.
Thank you for your time, Mr. Lawrence.
When it was established, remember, there was only a full-time director, and then the assistant came in later. Oh, double mic'd. It's an evolving, growing position. Can't deal with two, so I only need one.
Any other questions, concerns for Mr. Lawrence? You have questions for us? Anything?
I don't think so. I do appreciate your time, and I hope to gain your support with this, as it will mean a lot for us being able to move forward effectively in the department.
Okay. I had one last question, I'm sorry. Are you planning any, so in the past, you did give us a list of the programs, their revenues per program, and then expenditures. Is that something that you still have available at this point? Or?
I can certainly provide it.
Okay. I mean, it's probably, at this point, it's probably moot. It's probably something that would be best for next year. If the board wants something like that, because if I recall, there were a number of programs who were running kind of deficit numbers.
Yeah, I can tell you that year to year, we only have a few programs that really support the entire operation. You know, our after-school program and the summer camp are really the two biggest ones. Prior to COVID, we would run the Deerfield Hoop Classic, which was probably the third biggest source of revenue for us. And outside of that, everything is just designed to break even. And that's what we want, is to have money in, money out, and just pay for things to keep them going for
Sure.
people.
Okay. Any future planned programs?
Nothing new at this point.
Nothing? Okay. Thank you. Is that it? Okay. So, okay, so we have a budget of $102,503, a $32,400 increase, 46.22% over the previous year. All in favor of accepting that?
Aye.
Aye.
Looks unanimous. 9, all opposed, 0, abstained, 0. So the motion passes, 9-0-0. Thank you again for
Thank
coming
you.
in.
Thank you for your time.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay.
Ray, are we doing the roads next?
I was gonna do the highway department. How's that?
44.
So highway department is Steve Rollins, page 44.
Well, Steve has a number of pages.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that, because I did have a number of pages here for that.
There are many, many pages that make up his department.
Yeah. So it starts at 44. And then we have a whole bunch, 46, 46,
Let's start at
which is
44.
highways. Let's start at 44, page 44,
I would-
and it is the highway administration budget, $217,285, an increase, of $7,494, a 3.57% increase over the previous year.
So moved.
Okay, who was that? Mr. Langlois moves, second. Maureen Quinn seconds. Okay, so it's open for discussion.
This is the easiest page of the highway department.
This is the easiest page.
This is very simple, what we're paying people.
And this is based on how many employees?
This is based on, oh, sorry.
At this point right now, 3.
3 employees?
Yeah.
Okay. And are you anticipating,
Well, we're short 1 right now.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Verville?
How long you been short one?
Since July.
And is there a plan to,
I have no idea. I've asked the board several times.
so I guess I'll move the question over to the select
It's
board
currently in
representative.
discussion, is what I'd have to tell you.
So it's been since July that it's vacant.
Yes,
So is it a position that should be eliminated or a position that should be filled?
it's under discussion, is what I'd say.
It needs to be filled.
Yeah, so, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I tend to agree, and, we've gone 6 months. Half a year we're not filled, and it's under discussion with apparently no end of discussion in sight, which is unfortunate. There's more than enough work to be done on Deerfield roads. We've made some good progress with the $200,000 warrant articles we've approved the last couple of years, as well as the regular budget, because if we're not gonna fill a position and we just, is it we're not gonna fill it and we just don't wanna say out loud, we're not gonna fill the position? Or are we gonna fill the position? Because if we're not gonna fill it, that would be a place to save some spending to try to get this budget a little more palatable at the ballot box. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Verville. Mr. Rollins, do you have any, did anybody else? Mr. Rollins, do you have any input on that?
Just, it's a position that needs to be filled.
So it's 3 employees at the,
In the full-time line.
in the full-time, yep, full-time, and that was, actual is $143,533, correct? That looks like that's in the budget for the 2021 year-to-date as of October.
Vacancy.
And I gotta ask John, because I'm not sure on it, does the highway agent pay come out of that line as well or not?
And that's for all full-time people,
Okay,
including the road agent.
That was, okay, yes. So it's actually,
4 people then.
Well, it's 3 right now,
but it's
but we're
4.
missing 1, so it should be 4, yes.
But
The
you're,
proposed budget for 2022 is for 4 full-time staff, the road agent and 3 positions. Currently, there are only 2. Phil?
I didn't want to say that just in case the road agent was in one of the other pages.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Verville.
So I wasn't here last year, but I'm going to assume that the 189,655 2021 budget, no, that's the budget we're in, my apologies. The 2020 budget, 189,655, was for the highway agent plus 3 full-time employees beyond that. And it would appear that we were fully staffed for the entire year. And now we've chosen to go a solid, well, working on 6 months with a vacancy that hasn't, I assume hasn't been advertised, right? So it's just sitting empty.
Correct.
So we're just letting the work pile up. All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Verville.
I don't know if I can classify letting the work pile up, but I will agree with it sitting vacant.
Fair enough, but I will classify it as work piling up. I drive the roads.
Okay. Any additional thoughts, comments? I mean, it would seem apparent that, I don't know, it doesn't look like that vacant position is gonna be filled anytime soon, but I don't have a crystal ball to figure out if it will or not. So, if there aren't any other questions or discussions, I'm sorry, Ms. Quinn.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
No problem.
Mr. Rollins, I'm just wondering why you're going up so much on the overtime line, especially when, is that because you're down a person?
There you have it. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's good, we're gonna have a lot more overtime, especially, with the winter season without the third person.
Okay, thank you.
And that was also where the storms hit last year. We had
Right.
we had a lot of weekend storms. I mean, the amount of money we'll pay out on a storm, on a Tuesday morning storm versus a Friday into Sunday storm. We had some long duration ones last year, really hit us hard on that one too. It didn't seem
and
like we had a
typically-
lot of snow, but we had a lot of ice over the weekends.
Yeah, typically, it doesn't ever snow except nights and weekends.
Well, it's just the actual is quite a bit below what's being requested, so.
Well,
Yeah, the year-to-date was only 12,965.52, 21
But the
year-to-date.
next month, that'll get used up.
That, it's very possible we could use that up, don't know yet. Yes, Mr. Verwell.
Thank you for coming in, Mr. Rollins. Forgive my ignorance on how the highway department operates in detail, but it's my understanding that the full-time town employees in the highway department work plowing the roads, salting, sanding, et cetera, along with extra contracted workers. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
And so we're either going to have to contract another person, more people, more hours in the contract line for snow removal, or we're gonna have to ask our highway guys to work overtime to cover that. We're coming into the busy season.
Well, if I may.
Yes, please.
We're also short one hired truck this year, on top of the fact that we're short one town employee.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
which we are advertising for.
we are, yes, we did advertise for a hired truck, and I've knocked on every door that I know. And so far, no luck. But I mean, we're not the only town or state that's having problems finding trucks right now either.
Yeah, well, so fair enough, but so the contract work is per diem work, right? So when if I contract with the town as a plow guy, I get paid when I plow.
Yep, by the hour.
And if there's no snow, there's no
Right.
work, right?
Right.
So, again, we're talking about protracted storms last year, we're talking about long hours, and we're down a guy on the town side. There's nothing the budget committee can do to force this, but this looks like we're potentially creating a problem that's completely avoidable, and I haven't heard any justification for it. The other thing I'll say is when I look at the salary adjustment for this department at 3%, when I compare that to the salary adjustments that are proposed for other departments, and we're down a guy, some of this math seems a little inconsistent from my perspective.
Just for a bit of background there, the reason we're down a contractor is the state upped their rates. So we lost it to the state bid, and we're finding a lot of local municipalities are having the same problem.
Go to
The state-
Massachusetts.
The state's paying a lot more, so we're losing local plow
To be
drivers.
clear, my comments are towards the position, the town position that remains budgeted for and purposely unfilled, and that the salary adjustments in that department, a critical department, right? When we talk about a town delivering services to the residents, the number one service that this town provides to its residents is road maintenance. And I would say second by the transfer station. If you want to invert that and say, well, the transfer station gives me more bang for my buck and highways is second, I won't argue that. But this This is the service. This is the service that the people want, that the people expect, and the people are willing to pay for. Well, let me finish, because we have a history
1 minute.
of putting money into emergency winter maintenance trust funds, expendable trust funds. That always passes by a huge margin. And we've been putting $200,000 a year into road improvement as separate warrant articles for 3 years now? 2 years? 3 years?
2.
2 years. And I'm hoping that article comes back again this year. The committee should strongly encourage, or at least I'll strongly encourage, that that position be filled before winter storms start hitting and we don't create a problem of our own making. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Revolving.
Move the question.
Mr. Bilodeau moves the question. I'm sorry?
Second.
Mr. Langlois seconds. So we have the budget of Highway Administration of $217,285, an increase of $7,494, and a percentage increase of 3.57. All in favor?
Aye.
No. Mr. Langlois?
Sorry, I was up. Aye.
Okay, so it's unanimous, 9. All opposed, 0. And abstained, 0. So that motion passes. Let's move on to page 46.
Well, 47.
46, 47. 47 is the bottom line for that budget.
I'll move the amount of $390,109.
Mr. Langlois
That was Mr. Dill.
moves and Ms. Quinn seconds.
I moved, not,
I'm sorry, Mr. Dill, sorry, excuse me.
comes from the same corner.
Yeah, with the masks, it's
Yeah.
kind of like very similar.
And when we get into this, I just want to,
Let me just
sorry.
read off the amounts. $390,109, which is an increase of $120,978, or a 44.95% increase. Now you can go.
okay. The 44.95 seems large, and I'll explain why it's there. As we keep saying, we've had a default budget for years and years, except for 1 year where the budget that passed was very close to the default budget, and really for the highway department was a default budget. The thought process here is to catch the budget up. It hasn't, to be honest, kept up with inflation at all, even before this last bout of inflation. So, there's some lines here that have gone up significantly, and that is simply to try to catch up with the price of materials. I can tell you, for example, the salt line, Steve put it out, we got a bid on it, we got a really good bid price compared to what our neighboring towns are paying, and we're still 300% higher. We're paying $70 a ton, whereas we used to, 60, what was it, Steve?
It's right around $70.
Yeah, it was 65, and Epsom was paying 70.
Right, yeah.
We were paying 20 a ton last year. So, just to get that out there, 24 a ton. 43.
Yeah, 43.
Sorry. Your hand signal didn't quite get it all over. I didn't get a decimal point. But anyway, so the point being, we've seen major increases in some of these lines, and we're trying to catch up. And Steve can speak to some of the specific ones there. So, in the contracting winter maintenance line, we didn't increase our bid price this year. We increased last year. But since it's a default budget, it's still going against the last passed budget for that percentage increase, if that makes sense.
Yeah, all the numbers are all the same numbers I asked for last year. None of these numbers have changed since last year.
In an effort to try to catch this up.
Right. But last year, we were basically trying to catch up for 10 years of no increase. And the overall percentage was better than 25% that we were behind overall, not breaking it down into each individual category.
Sure. So, I mean, if last year's budget didn't pass with the numbers that you put in, what
Right.
are the expectations that this
That's-
one's gonna
that's-
pass
well,
with
and
the same
that-
numbers?
Right. Now this year, with everything that's gone on, the price of all materials has gone even crazier. And really, I should be adding for that, but I mean, it didn't pass, so if I add more to it, you know what I mean? I'll just be happy to get what I can get.
Mr. Dill?
I know, I was saying.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Verwell.
Question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, it's always nice to find common ground. I agree with the Select Board representative 100% that these numbers need to be adjusted, right? This increase, this is good spending. This is spending that you can go and sell to people, right? I'm proposing to increase last year's operating budget by 3%. 3% for what? 3% for winter maintenance, 3% for salt, 3% for maintenance and repair. These are good line items, right? Not including all the other budget. Just this page is 3% over last year. The problem is, when we put in salary adjustments that make up close to a third of the proposed increase, it balloons. And again, I'll go back to, we had 2 warrant articles passed by huge majorities, but yet we're still insisting on putting salary adjustments into the operating budget. And it's my opinion that those are the numbers that end up capsizing the budget. I mean, I understand your question, Mr. Chairman, but it shouldn't have been directed at the highway agent. Highway agent's coming in with flat numbers he's been asking for years. The proposed budgets that have been going to the ballot box in March are not failing because of the highway budget. And we know that because people are voting overwhelmingly for an extra $200,000 for road maintenance year after year, even in tough times. And so I fully support this budget. I also agree, he's telling the truth, right? These are not his preferred numbers. These numbers are smaller than his preferred numbers based on current market prices as inflation continues to affect the economy.
Right.
But he said, I believe the quote that I heard when he presented to the Select Board, what's the sense of asking for more if the budget's not going to pass anyway? And he doesn't mean this budget. He means the budget at the last page, right? And that's the realism. So the question is, you know, if you really support this budget as it is, right, what's the magic? What's the method that we're going to do this year that's different than what we've been doing for many years that's actually going to get people to vote in favor of this budget? I asked that at the last meeting, and all I got was eye rolls. And the question's as valid now as it was then, and it'll continue to be as valid. I'm going to support this budget. If anything, it's probably underspent. But because of the last page, we're going to end up mopping this up from other line items. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions, comments, discussions? Would you like to add anything to this, Mr. Rollins?
Guess not.
I mean, I think that, yeah, it's a rock and a hard place budget, but at the end of the day, you know, if it didn't pass last year, I question whether it will pass this year again with the same numbers, regardless of what the bottom line is of this entire budget.
Right.
Of not just your budget, but the entire town budget. You're kind of being swept away with the rest of the town budget.
And that's exactly what's happening.
And there's not, you know, but this does make up part of the town budget.
Right.
So in essence, there's a bit of an accomplice situation here. So with that said, I'll ask for any other questions, if there's any other input. All in favor of approving this budget, $390,109, $120,978, 44.95% increase from the previous year. Please say aye, raise your hands. Looks unanimous, 9-0. Any nays? Nope. And 0 abstentions. So that budget will pass. We are back to page 48.
I move the page 148 for
This is road,
sealing and resurfacing of
Yes.
$1,876.
okay, the
Second.
second is, so Mr. Bilodeau moved, Ms. Quinn seconded. The budget on page 48 is $1,876, $376 increase, 25.07% increase. Mr. Rollins.
I don't know what more
I got to give you an opportunity.
Move the question.
Okay, go ahead. All right, all in favor of this budget, $1,876, $376 increase, 25.07%. All in favor? Everybody? Okay, 9, all opposed, 0,
That's an
0.
easy one.
All right, now we're on to.
I'll move the road reconstruction line in the amount of $331,629.
Okay, which page is that again?
49,
49?
the next
Okay.
one.
The next one, all right, sorry. Oh, they stuck together. Okay, so we have road reconstruction, $331,629, $66,326, or 25% flat increase. It was moved by Mr. Dill, was it?
Yes.
Okay, seconded by Mr. Verval. Okay, open for discussion. What do we have some contracts coming out next year for resurfacing and repaving and all that?
It all depends on what we get for money.
This is the one in the budget, and the plan is to make another warrant article again for an increased line for road reconstruction and tree maintenance. Because this is great, but it doesn't do a whole hell of a lot.
Doesn't-
It doesn't go that far. It doesn't pave many miles these days.
So you're proposing a warrant article in addition to the $321,250?
Yes, just like we've had for the last couple of years.
That we've got.
Yeah, that we've got. I believe it's 250 this year.
250? Okay.
This is a rare moment of agreement across the aisle here, so we're doing well.
I mean, we had a budget of $257,000 last year, and we've used $148,611 so far this year
I've got,
different number for hot top grinding.
148,611,
Right,
22.
148,611 used to date.
And I believe that there's some outstanding, because we just went around and did some more on that, correct, Steve? Because the season just is ending now. We're not going to leave money in that one, don't worry.
Mr. Verval?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I guess that goes to my question, because we have left money previously, and I was wondering if we were underspending that line a little bit because we have the extra 200,000 and we're using that to cover other expenses in other parts of the highway budget, or no?
No,
Trying to snug up to it.
the warrant article is very specific on what we can use it for. Are you saying?
No, sorry, I
This
understand.
one.
Let me restate it, just so we know,
Yeah.
right? So there's the 200,000, and we're spending that quite diligently. So my question is, because we do appear to be underspending this by a little bit, have we been purposely undershooting so that we have money, for leftover money in this line to cover other over expenses in the highway department?
And the rest, yes, and the rest of the season.
Yes, yes.
So I would disagree with Steve there, because he's out, we've been paving right now out of this line. So,
Okay, fair enough. The only other thing I'll say, Mr. Chairman, is the select board rep said, you don't get many miles out of this. You don't get many miles of hot top out of this. And that's true. There's no doubt about that. but you get more than twice as much, you get at least as much as you get from the 200,000, because there's an extra 50,000 in here, right? So the 200,000 that we have been passing has allowed us to double the mileage, right?
Yes.
Or close to it. So, this is another big increase, right? It's 66,000, it's 25%, but you can sell this to voters, right? When people say, why is the operating budget up, X percent year on year, and I can point to hot top and grinding and say, because the highway agent wants to rebuild the roads that, in my opinion, we underserviced, we neglected for at least a decade in town, and now we're trying to play catch-up. And unfortunately, we didn't start as early as we probably should have, and now inflation's going to eat away at some of that. But this is the kind of spending increase that you can put in an operating budget that you can get past the ballot box in March. But it's when you lump everything else in that it sort of gets beyond the number that the voters have demonstrated that they're willing to support. But it is what it is. Thank you, Mr. Rollins, for coming in, and I will support this.
Mr. Dill.
Just one more thing to throw on there. It's not just willy-nilly where Steve's going in town and working on this either. We had the road inventory laid out, and he's trying some new stuff too. They laid out conditions of every foot of road in town and mitigation strategies, short of completely ripping it up and redoing it. So there's some that we do have to do that, but he's working pretty hard right now to extend and to get some of those back up without total grind down to dirt and restart. So.
Any other questions, comment?
I have one question, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Cresswell.
And maybe this is a question best answered by either yourself, Mr. Dill, or Mr. Harrington, but with the recent infrastructure bill that was passed, and please, I apologize for my ignorance on this. Is there any chance that the local communities are going to see any of that money trickle down this way, or is that strictly for state and federal?
That's going to have to go to John, because he's going to be the one that's
I
seeing
haven't
that.
heard anything about that yet.
Okay.
That hasn't trickled down to us yet.
Okay. My only input would be, I'm wondering if some of this amount wouldn't be better placed into a warrant article to perhaps better assure its passage, rather than include it in the budget.
We did increase that warrant article this year.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman,
But-
we've been doing 200,000 above
We went to
and beyond this
250, but I'm wondering if you could take some
You're
of the.
suggesting moving some of the other lines.
Yeah, I mean, reduce this amount and place another 50,000 into a warrant article, so you have 300,000. I'm just saying, it's, you guys do what you want to do.
Afraid if we get too greedy, we'll lose it all.
Well, you're either gonna lose it in this, potentially you're gonna lose it in the town budget if it goes back to default again, right? So I'm wondering if you have a better chance of getting it if it's in a warrant article versus.
The advantage of it being in here is if the budget passes, then we've caught this up to a more realistic number.
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman.
big if. Yeah, sorry. Mr. Verbal.
So, did you have your hand up too?
No, I'm good.
Okay, sorry. I believe Mr. Rollins is hitting the nail on the head. So we've been asking for 200,000. That's been passing by large margins. So the 250 doesn't make me nervous, and we certainly have more than enough roads to work on. I think but eventually that number, like the bottom line in this budget, gets to a size that is no longer palatable to the voters. And while if this was a business and we were putting it out to bid and had other business plans as a backup, it might not be a bad idea to see where the limit lie. I would rather go in with a number that we are highly confident will pass. This is gonna be a tough year. This budget is big. There's gonna be a warrant article for a police station. There's gonna be a $250,000 warrant article for road resurfacing. There'll be other warrant articles. The school budget is terra incognito at this point, but my understanding is they're gonna be coming in with a warrant article for 20 to 30 million to expand the school. And so This would probably not be the year to dramatically increase past 250 on that paving, in my opinion, because there's a lot of big ticket items coming down the pike in March.
All right, so any other questions, concerns, Mr. Rollins? Okay, so we have the budget is moved at 331,629, 66,326 increase, 25% increase from previous years. All in favor? Looks like 9-0 and 0 abstain. Okay, and then we'll just do the bottom, I'm sorry.
Well, we have gravel.
We got
Can't-
gravel,
can't
that's
skip
right.
gravel.
Yep, can't skip gravel, okay, so I'll move the gravel page for $20,001, $4,001 increase, a 25.01% increase from previous years. Anybody gonna move it? Mr. Cresswell moves.
Second.
Mr. Verbal seconds. Okay, let's talk gravel. Anything?
I don't know, there's much talk about with the gravel.
Move the
On
question.
page 50. Okay. Second to move the
Second.
question. Ms. Quinn. Okay, all in favor of the gravel to $20,001, $4,001 increase, and 25.01% increase? Raise your hands. All in favor? That's 9. Any abstain? 0. Any nays? Nope. Okay.
We already did bridge repairs, correct?
We did bridge.
So I think that's
Yep.
the end of highway.
It's, yes, so do we need to move the whole bottom line of bridge and highways? We've done each individual budget, I
It's a
think.
summation.
Yeah, it's just a summation, so I think we're good. Thank you very much, Mr. Rollins, for coming in.
All right, thank you, have a good evening.
Yep, thanks, you too. Thanks again. Appreciate it. We have government buildings on page 20, Mr. Ellis. Good evening.
Good evening, thanks for having me.
Sure. So we have the general government building, it's on page 20. We have a budget of $108,715, which is a $9,332 increase, or a 9.39% increase from the previous year.
So moved.
Mr. Langlois moves. Ms. Quinn seconds. We're open for discussion.
Okay, so basically, my lines are exactly as they were last year, with increases as far as materials and what the people are charging us has increased from year to year. Fuel oil, propane is up higher than it was last year. These are some of the numbers that are increasing the budget in this one. We had a few things that we tried to add as far as like the Joint Loss Management Committee. On the second page, it was $1. We're trying to get it up to 500, so that we can have some money in the Joint Loss Management as far as materials, is paint and stuff like that for, safety issues around town. And it was coming out of the maintenance money, and we didn't feel that it really should. It should come out of the Joint Loss Management. The tool line is $250. That's basically, I use most of my own tools, but there are times when we need a different tool, so we try to keep that at $250. We've had some increases with the mileage because I use my own vehicle. I don't have a town vehicle. So I use my own vehicle. So the mileage has gone up a little bit. Traveling more and more and more than when I first started, as my responsibilities have grown since I first started.
Mr. Langlois?
It looks like we've zeroed out the heating oil line, and did we move that money somewhere else?
Yes, at the South Station, it used to have the heating oil up top, and the heating oil has been removed from the South Station. We had a 1,000-gallon tank in the ground. It was not in a vault. It's been there since 1980, and they recommended that we get it out of the ground before something happened. So we took that out of the ground, and we got rid of the oil tank, and we got rid of the oil furnace. That was also in there since 1980, when we were having problems with the furnace, starting to put money into it. So the fire chief asked if we could switch over to propane. So we now have propane in the south station. So that line has been moved down to the bottom, where it says Central Fire. If you look all the way down to the left, it says South Fire Station, 809 gallons.
Okay.
So, I mean, based on the numbers, it looks like oil was cheaper at the time, right,
It was.
than it is right now.
We have a more efficient heater in there now, and it seems to be using less, so I don't know where it'll go. We just got it up and running like 3 weeks ago.
That was one of those strategic decisions. We could put in another oil tank inside and limp along with a 30-year-old boiler, or just change the whole thing off at once. Ray suggested the propane change, and it really made sense. We don't want that station freezing, because then we got more problems.
No, I just noticed that there was a significant difference in the price, or not the price, but the line item for heating oil and propane. Was 688 year-to-date, and this year, we're looking at 2329 year-to-date, so it's almost 3 times, 4 times thereabouts.
Yeah, I think part of that on the actual side is that you didn't buy oil at some point this year. You stopped buying oil, so you almost need to look at
Yeah, so,
how it impacts.
okay.
On the good side, our rubbish line has gone way down.
That was because of a new bid, correct, Ray?
That's because we changed contractors. We got rid of Waste Management, and we got hold of Pinard, and they were a lot cheaper. So rubbish went down $2,564 by switching.
Okay. Any other questions on this? Okay, so we have the budget moved at $108,715, $932 increase, or 9.39% increase over the previous year. All in favor? Looks unanimous. All opposed? No abstentions. So let's move on to page 21 is GB White. And we have a budget of $101,359, $8,941, 9.67% for previous year.
So moved.
Somebody want to?
So moved.
Okay, Mr. Dill moves.
Second.
Second, Ms. Quinn. Open, let's talk.
Okay, so again, on the GBW, the oil definitely went up. And basically, a lot of the stuff that we were looking to do, we couldn't do because of the cost is going up. We wanted to do the striping of the parking lot, we couldn't get that, they can't get paint. And everything's kept going up higher and higher. So basically, I kept those lines all the same. The only ones that really went up on this at all were the ones that were beyond my means as far as what they charge. The
Which is
diesel
oil and
generators stayed the
testing.
same.
And you're still testing water here? on
Yeah, the
what-
testing water went up, $250 increase because the state is now demanding that we test for PFAS. So that testing we didn't do before.
Based on the usage of the building.
Okay. And heating oil, any other questions? Any potential grants?
We've been looking into it. We haven't got any new grants yet. We've been looking into America the Beautiful to see if we can get some grants through them. Always looking.
Electricity seems to be a big,
Yes.
huge line.
It's gonna get worse.
Luckily, it's,
We do actually have a community electrician electricity buying program for the municipal buildings that is saving us quite a bit of money. That was part of a Southern New Hampshire regional planning plan that we've been into for quite a few years, that I just found out about the other day, that's lowering electricity over if we were just buying it from Eversource or what have you.
Okay, any other questions, comments? So we're looking at a budget of $101,359, $8,941 increase, 9.67% increase over previous year for the GB White line, budget line. All in favor? Mr. Burwell, yes? Okay. Looks like 9-0, all opposed, and 0 abstain. All right. And
Town Hall.
coming up, Town Hall. Okay, so for the Town Hall budget, we have a budget of $33,952, an increase of $1,729, a 5.37% increase over the previous year.
So moved.
Move the question, Mr. Dill.
Second.
All right, that was a tie there. Who wants to go?
Doesn't matter to me.
Ms. Quinn, seconds the question, and we're open for discussion. So we have looks like a pretty reasonable increase over the previous year.
So, again, it's fuel, and the fuel's gone up, the oil, and the dumpster went down again on this one as well. This one, we went down $1,379 from before, and again, that's because we switched over to Bernard. The biggest issues here are the sprinkler system that we have over there. We've had a lot of problems with it this year, and it currently is empty. We had to drain the tank because it was leaking, and we had to have a company go inside the tank and do an inspection, and they found that we had a crack in the tank, and it could be repaired because it's a fiberglass tank. And we basically went to the board, and the board, we decided that we would try to repair the tank at the recommendation of the company. So we went forward with that. We went through all 3 phases. It's now repaired, and we're getting ready to fill it back up, and hopefully we'll have no problems, and we can move forward with that. So sprinkler maintenance is a big issue. The prices are always going up, and as electronic parts break, and we seem to have a little ghost over there in the unit itself. So far, he's kept it at bay. And so the frequent calls are what makes the price go up a little bit as far as the sprinkler system.
So the tank repairs would come in under this year's budget? They would be allocated to this year's budget? John?
Yes, but I believe John's gonna tell you
John
that
will tell
we
you.
took that out of the facilities maintenance trust fund.
We paid for the tank repair out of the municipal trust fund. We didn't have the money in this budget to do the repair. It's going to top out at about 20,000 plus when it's all said and done.
Which seems like a lot of money until we find out what it would cost to dig that darn tank up and replace it, which was what, 175?
168,000.
Considerable savings.
I'm sorry, Mr. Verwell.
Don't be sorry, it's fine. Thank you, Mr. Harrington. So we spent 20 grand, and how much money sits in that trust fund, either before or after? Ballpark. Don't know.
This question came up last night. There was, as of the end of September 30th, 54,000.
Okay.
So you're looking at probably about, we've spent other items, the repair of the roof, somewhere in the 20s left in that trust fund.
Oh, okay.
We won't get another quarterly report until the end of December.
Yeah, understood. Mr. Chairman, if I may? Is the intention to put a warrant article, put more money in that fund? Thank you.
That, between the roof repair and that sprinkler tank, it really paid for itself right there.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions about the budget? Okay, so we're looking at the town hall budget of $33,952. an increase of $1,729, and an overall increase of 5.37% from the previous year. All in favor? Looks unanimous. All opposed? 0 abstain. And I think that does it. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank
Any
you so
other-
much for having me.
Any other input you want to provide? We're happy to listen.
Well, the only thing that I would like to say is, in the town hall, there's no restoration line for the budget. There used to be one, and it got zeroed out, and I don't know why it got zeroed out. But the town hall is something that we have to maintain all the time, as far as try to paint it. The painting is expensive. Paint's gone way up right now. I just talked to the painter the other day, and to do one side of the building is gonna cost us close to $7,000. So, just to give you an idea that money isn't in this budget. So I would like to see a restoration line at some point, even if it's through volunteers or whatever, just keep that line open so we can try to get some money in for restoration, because the building itself is in need of some work.
Mr. Chairman, I vote we reconsider the budget for the town hall.
I was
Second.
just going to ask that question. So we have a motion to reconsider this budget for the town hall by Mr. Bilodeau and seconded by Mr. Verville.
On page 22.
And page 22. All in favor of doing the reconsideration? Let's make sure. Okay, it looks like it's unanimous for the reconsideration.
Chairman, I make a motion that we add $1 in the line.
There's a line number there.
Right,
432.
432, yeah.
Yeah,
I was gonna read all the numbers, but I'm not gonna do it. Under town hall restoration was 0 all the way through, we put $1 in that line. And take $1 out of
Sure.
the telephone and make it 529.
Sure, so your motion is to move $1 from the
Telephone line,
telephone, which is 01.4192.03.341 at $530, and move $1 down to the town hall restoration of 01.4194.03.432, and put $1 into that line, correct?
yes.
Mr. Chairman? I'll second the motion.
Okay,
And
Mr. Verville seconds, Mr. Bilodeau and Mr. Verville second. So we're going to move.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Verville.
I'd like to offer a friendly amendment to the motion. So the motion's to put $1. The testimony is it's gonna be at least $7,000 to paint. Half or a side?
That was one side, yeah.
A side. So I would offer a friendly amendment that we increase that amount by $9,999. So there's actually, it doesn't matter, right? It's a placeholder so that the next budget, people see that there's a need and a desire to put money in there. So I'd offer a friendly amendment to increase the motion by $9,999, and I'd look for a second.
I'll second that.
Okay, Mr. Verville makes the motion, Mr. Cresswell seconds. To increase that town hall restoration line?
Yeah.
By $999,
Yeah, so we'd bring it to 10,000 even.
Yeah.
That's what would make the original motion.
$9,999. Okay, we first have to move, we have to
We-
get a
we-
vote on the first.
No, we have a motion on the floor with a second for $1.
Yes,
So the
we haven't
amendment,
taken a vote on that yet.
but you can't because there's an amendment. You got to vote on the amendment first to amend it to 990, to add 999 to get it up to 10,000. So the amendment is what we should be voting on next. And if that passes, then the amount's 10,000. If it fails, then the amount's $1.
I have a question.
Sure.
I'm just curious, why go for 10,000 when that's not going to get us two sides? Why don't we just do 6,999 and get one side?
That, Mr. Chairman, if I may?
Mr. Verville.
Yeah, so that's an excellent question, and I thank the member for bringing it forward. Because he's given me a thumb to the wind number, $7,000 to do a side, and he's telling me pricing is going up, and inflation is certainly going up, particularly with labor and materials. And so 10,000, make sure there's more than enough, and we don't have to worry about overspending the line.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So it would, Any other, Mr. Langlois?
So, I certainly agree with opening the line. My concern is we've listened all night long and through this whole process, the budget's gonna fail, the budget's gonna fail, the budget's gonna fail. So is adding an additional 10,000 helping to ensure that the budget fails, which may be what some people are looking for. You know, my thought process is we put a budget that really represents a need. Putting $1 in that line opens up that line and allows, if there's surplus funds, for money to be moved into it, which hopefully can allow them to accomplish some of that task without over increasing the budget necessarily and guaranteeing even a greater success of its failure.
Well,
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Mr. Verl.
Thank you. So the challenge with that thinking, first of all,
I'm not trying to sink the budget. I've been trying to get this budget to someplace it might pass.
Okay.
10,000 out of 616,000 is not what's going to make it or break it. This is spending that I can justify to voters to say 10,000 to maintain our historic town hall is money well spent. To populate it with $1 and then to wait for a surplus means that he would have to bid it late December to grant it in January, and I don't know if a painter's gonna take that for the following summer or not. And it's contingent upon there being a surplus, and it delays the whole process by a year, right? So the idea of the 10,000 is it shows in the line what a minimum actual need is, regardless if this budget passes. So if this budget passes, the 10 gets spent to do a side, and next year we do another side, and in 4 years, we've gone all the way around. If the budget doesn't pass, the budget committee next year sees that number and knows what the real need is. And so it's a good placeholder for future discussions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Verl. I tend to think that there is, if we look at the year-to-date numbers for town hall maintenance, $874, and yet there's a budgeted line of $9,320. There seemed to be some margin there. And then we also look at the heating oil, which, yes, it will increase, but there's the current usage right now is $21.76, okay? And you have a budgeted item of $7,500 in there. It would seem that there might be enough margin in those two items to, if they're not fully expended out of those budget lines, to get a $7,000 painting job on the side of the town hall. Yes, no?
Well, you gotta remember the time of year that we're in.
Sure.
So I talked to him yesterday, and he said by the time spring rolls around, those numbers may be different. So that's a ballpark figure that I'm giving. An actual figure would come in when I ask him for a bid.
Sure. I mean, I'm looking at electricity is $3,428, and you have a budgeted item of $8,000. So there's substantial margin there as well. But Mr. Langlois.
So actually, to that point, and you just, I just re-referenced the backup. The maintenance line that is currently there that is appearing to be underspent right now, if you go to the backup, it actually includes painting 2 sides of the town hall. So Mr. Verville, to his credit, right here, maintenance, paint 2 sides of town hall.
Okay.
So Mr. Verville, to his credit, why should the town be looking at bidding that work out now, encumbering the funds if the money's available in that line, to at least get some of that work done next year out of this year's budget? Or can that, and draw a blank if that's possible?
Actually, we encumbered it last night at the meeting.
Okay.
To do that.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Verl.
how much was encumbered?
It was,
The discussion to encumber, the actual encumbrance has not taken place yet, but that is the proposal. We're going out to get different bids, and once we have a bid, we can contract for painting in the spring using those leftover funds.
Encumber it in leftover funds?
yes.
Out of that line, yes.
Yes.
So we have to get
I
through
mean,
quotes.
that way we can pretty much keep this, as presented.
Yeah.
correct?
With that newfound information, it more strongly represents just moving and reopening that
Right.
line with.
Since it's a bottom line budget, we can
Right.
Mr. Chairman?
ultimately move it around. Mr. Burwell.
If I could, so if we're already budgeting, or we're gonna allegedly encumber for two sides, then why would we open the line for $1 if we're already accounting for it somewhere else?
This allows for future.
Where,
And if I could have a follow-up, Mr. Chairman, because you brought up a good point, right? If you open it with $1, you can find savings elsewhere, and then you can move money around, because it's bottom line budget. Is there anybody in the room that can give me an example of any time that we've taken a line that was passed at the ballot box for $1, and we actually increased it to some larger amount to accomplish the goal that was defined in that line? Anybody give me an example of when we've actually ever done that?
Overspent the dollar line?
Yes.
Look in this budget here under sprinkler maintenance.
No, where's it ever happen?
Okay, so.
The actual line is 57.45, the budget line is $1.
Yeah.
So we do that.
But you had to do that because you have to have a sprinkler, you have no choice, right? You have to maintain the sprinkler in that building by law.
The reason you're seeing that over expenditure is, prior to me getting here, any expenditures in the sprinkler system were buried in other parts of the budget. I've now realigned the accounting to accurately reflect what we're spending on the sprinkler system for the town hall. So luckily, we had $1 in that line. It's being overspent because that's the actual accounting of where it belongs.
Fair enough, thank you, Mr. Harrington.
Thank you, Mr. Harrington. Maureen?
No, I'm all set.
You're all set? Mr. Roy?
My question is, if we budgeted the money to paint the town hall, and then someone asked why we need $1, and the response was, well, so we'd be able to spend it in the future, but we don't need it now to budget, do you see where I'm a little confused about why we need it at all then? If we're able to budget the money now, why do we have to add $1?
If we can speak to that, if you don't
Yeah.
mind. John's
I'm
got
sorry,
one,
Mr.
Ray's got one,
Harrington.
I've got one.
Sure.
I think, Terry, you made
Terry,
that comment?
yes.
Yeah, that restoration line would cover, as most of you who drive by the town hall can see, the shutters are falling apart.
Yeah.
There's major
Windows.
structural problems with the town hall. That maintenance line is for everyday problems, water heaters, plumbing, electrical issues. It is not sufficient to cover those major structural issues that we have to address. So we haven't started with those. The Heritage Commission is involved looking at other structural issues. All of the windows do not operate efficiently. We're looking into that, but we're looking at big ticket items that this budget wouldn't currently address.
I guess maybe I asked the question wrong. I'm not questioning the need. What I'm questioning is if the select board budgeted to paint the building already without there being $1 in the line, how did they do that?
I guess the question would be between maintenance and restoration, and maintenance being, we generally paint every year. We didn't paint last year, but that's
I
a
see.
general
So it's being
maintenance.
treated as a maintenance.
Exactly, so
yeah.
does that make sense?
Yeah.
Whereas with
Yeah.
the
Okay.
shutters are a once every 200-year thing?
I think it comes down to the definition of maintenance versus restoration.
Correct.
Is really what it boils down to at this point. Restoration, I
putting it
know
in the
that there
right
was,
line.
I'm sorry?
Putting it in the right line.
Right. At one point, I know that there was a roofing thing going on, and then there were windows and all that stuff. I would consider that to be kind of restoration. General upkeep and maintenance would be general maintenance and upkeep. Mr. Langwise?
So one other question, I suspect for Mr. Harrington more so than anybody else. If that line is zeroed out and a grant was received for a historic restoration of that building, would you be able to receive and exercise on that grant, or would that prevent you from being able to receive and?
If the
perform
grant was specific to the town hall, I would not be able to put money in that line. Any grants received or revenue
closed
received
out.
do not go in the budget. Once the budget is voted by the people, any incoming revenue goes in our revenue line. You won't see it in this budget. We don't put money into line.
Right, so but you wouldn't be able to perform the work if that was zeroed out. If you received a grant for historic work.
We would
restoration work.
likely create a separate line in the budget just for accounting purposes, to be able to spend against that revenue, but it wouldn't show up in the actual department.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Verwell?
Yeah, thank you. So I would say that Mr. Harrington elocuted a pretty good list of acute needs at our historic town hall. So the $10,000 in capable hands, and I believe we have very capable hands to handle that, would be money very well invested in the signature historic building of this town, right? That building is our icon. So I would encourage members to support the motion to put $10,000 in the restoration fund, and let's maintain that building the way it deserves to be maintained.
Okay.
Move the
So,
question.
we have a move the question. So we have a second from Ms. Quinn. So the motion is to add, what was it,
$9,999. It's an amendment to the motion.
$9,999 into that budget line item for town hall restoration, 01.4194.03.432. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 7 yeas. All opposed? 1, 2. Abstain? No abstentions, so the motion passes.
The amendment.
The amendment
So the
passes.
motion is now 10,000
Yeah,
for that one.
yep. So the motion passes to add $9,999. And then we have a second motion to move $1 from the telephone line, which is 014194.03.341, and place it into the town hall restoration line of 014194.03.432.
With the $9,999.
Adding the $1 to the $9,999 previously added, for a total balance of $10,000.
And I'll move that question.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Verville, seconded by Mr. Dill. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Mr. Lang, 8. 8 yea, 1 no, and 0 abstains. So the motion passes, and that line, 014194.03.432 is now $10,000. And we have a new bottom line.
So I will move the new bottom line at $43,951.
Second.
Mr. Dill,
No,
second.
because the dollar came from telephone. We only added $9,999.
Only added, yeah.
Oh, all right.
Okay.
Sorry.
So we have a second.
Yes.
Okay, all in favor of the bottom line of $43,951. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
8, Phil.
8.
Eight.
Phil's late to the party.
8 opposed. 1 and 0. So the motion passes. The new bottom line for the town hall budget is $43,951.
I think that's it for Ray.
I think that's it for Mr. Ellis. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate all your support, and it's a difficult time, so it's good that we can all come together. Thank you.
Yes, sir, thank you.
It's 78.
I know, I already
I'll give
sent
you
that
mine.
for, thank you. Okay, so next up is not on our agenda, but it is the Conservation Commission, and it is page 78, and Haley Andriozzi is here.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. So, let's do this. We have a budget for the Conservation Commission, $3,299, $498 increase, and a 17.78% increase from the previous year. Motion for the,
I think we've already motioned it, we tabled it.
yeah, so we'll untable it. How's that?
Move to untable.
Why did we table it?
Yep, seconded. All in favor of untabling? Okay, 9-0-0. We're untabled. Yet, here it is. So, tell us about what's going on.
Yeah, the Conservation Commission budget has stayed pretty stable, or at least we've proposed it to stay pretty stable for a number of years. The budget that you're seeing proposed for 2022 is the same that's been proposed since 2017. Really, the only significant change there is an increase in the line item for a part-time secretary, and currently filled by Judy Marshall, who's excellent. And then a few years ago, it was brought to our attention that she was being paid significantly less than other secretaries for town boards. And so that increase in that line item is to bring her hourly rate to something that's equitable with other board secretaries. Unfortunately, with the lack of a budget voted on by the town the last few years, what it's resulted in is a reduction of her hours servicing the Conservation Commission at her new increased hourly rate.
Okay. Did you do any comparison with surrounding towns to see what secretaries might be?
I don't have the information for surrounding towns. I can tell you that, in 2017, Judy was being paid a little over $15 an hour, and the town of Deerfield was advertising for, and Judy's been in that position for many years. So I don't know the exact number, but around a decade or plus. So the town of Deerfield itself was advertising a brand-new position for a secretary for a town board at the rate of $18 an hour. So we brought it to the town administrator and suggested that she be offered a pay increase to that hourly wage, and it was approved for equity reasons.
Okay. So essentially, we're looking at almost a $500 increase from the previous.
Move the question.
I have a question, if you don't mind, Mr.
Sure, Mr. Verbal?
Yeah, I'm just trying to make sure I understand what we're referring to. So we have a recording secretary that keeps our minutes. Is that essentially the same job that Ms. Marshall is doing, or does she have other duties besides that for the Conservation Commission?
She has other duties in that she does all of our record keeping. She does research. For instance, if we're working on a conservation project, she'll research the history of the project, the parcel, the conservation value of the parcel as it relates to, different conservation priorities identified in regional planning initiatives. She kind of serves as our liaison to other town boards. So yeah, she has quite a few additional responsibilities beyond just the meeting minutes.
Okay, fair enough. So she's doing some higher level.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Again, I move the
Mr. Wright.
question. Move the question.
Okay, so we have.
I know that there was a desire to have a little more information about the dues that are being paid by the Conservation Commission for the groups that they support, like Bearpaw, New Hampshire Association of Conservation Commissions. So, can you tell us about those institutions?
Yeah, so we currently in the recent years have paid dues to 3 different organizations. The first, and I think primary in support of our work, well, that's not fair. There's 2 really, I would say, that primarily support our work on the Conservation Commission. The first is the New Hampshire Association of Conservation Commissions. That's a nonprofit that provides education, support, and advocacy on behalf of conservation commissions across the state. And so they really serve as a resource in helping us understand our role as a conservation commission, what's permitted, what's prohibited in our role, how to navigate different issues that might arise in our work on the Conservation Commission, and especially providing insight on what other towns have done. So for instance, when we were working with the planning board to update the wetland zoning ordinance a couple of years ago, the New Hampshire Association of Conservation Commissions is a really excellent resource to provide guidance on what other towns are doing or have done and what that process looks like. So that's one. The second primary organization that we support is Bearpaw Regional Greenways, which is our local land trust. It's a nonprofit working to identify conservation priorities and conserve land. And for Bearpaw, that's specifically happening to maintain a corridor of valuable wildlife habitat, farms, and forests connecting Bear Brook State Park and Pawtuckaway. And so they provide guidance for us on different conservation priorities here in Deerfield. They help facilitate different conservation projects and implement conservation easements on private land throughout town. And then the last is the Lamprey River Watershed Association, which works to conserve the Lamprey River watershed and provide educational resources, and also collaborates with New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services to do water testing in the Lamprey River.
Okay,
Move the
thank you.
question.
So, Mr. Roy moved the question?
I did.
Okay. Second, Mr. Dill. So we have a motion to move the question for the conservation budget of $3,299, $498 increase with 17.78% increase from previous years. All in favor? Okay, 9, all opposed, 0, and it passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening, thank you.
Thank you.
Patience in waiting through all the others.
Learned a lot.
Thank you.
Hopefully it's all good.
Does that finish the town budget?
Say again?
Does that finish?
It depends on, do you want to try to, we had some wrap-up items.
Wrap-up?
We had town admin, insurance, property reevaluation, personal admin, planning and zoning, animal control of Easy Park.
Do you want animal control real fast?
She's walking
Yeah.
up the stairs.
Literally leaving right now.
Cindy, come back.
You were that close, Cindy.
Almost, see? You almost got away with it.
I move we take page 62 out of order.
Yes. Okay, so we have animal control, page 62, $8,999, $1,833 increase, 29.25% increase previous year.
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Dill, second. Maureen Quinn, we're open, go ahead.
I don't even have it with me. The chief told me he did it already.
It's right there, it's there, sorry.
Here, Cindy. Was it already done?
I thought the chief said it was already done.
No, we didn't do animal control, we did fire, we did
fire rescue.
police, we did fire rescue, but we didn't do animal control.
I think so. The only thing is it's not done.
I just wanted to grab her in case we had questions.
$8,099.
Move the question.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Langley, second by Mr. Verval, all in favor?
I should have kept going.
Okay, all opposed, 0.
Thank
They're
Control the
out.
animals.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
I know it's too
Thank
late for
you.
questions, but did we find the owner of all these missing rabbits that keep showing up
Yeah.
on Facebook?
Yes, they're down Middle Road.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
It's rabbits and pigeons.
They
this
run
year.
free range.
Pigeons.
Free-range rabbits?
That's a dangerous,
Hawks
that's a
like
dangerous
those.
game.
So,
Thank you.
Somebody let a bunch go.
Okay,
Recipe for, bunny
so,
Like a
Mr. Harrington, I didn't know if you wanted to kind of run through these or not. I kind of looked at them as, wrap-up items.
I'm open for questions.
So we can do quickly, town admin is on page 2. And we are looking at a town admin budget of $260,393, an increase of $23,663, or 10% increase over the previous year. Motion.
So moved.
Move it. Mr. Dill moves, Ms. Quinn seconds. Mr. Harrington,
Well,
Question.
yeah, questions?
move the budget.
Looks like it's mostly salary
Postage went up quite a bit.
and vendors. Maintenance vendors was what, like,
That's all our software that operate all of our town functions, accounting, personnel.
oh, okay.
Licensing fees, basically.
No, that town clerk has their own software. This functions for our accounting purposes, our payroll.
But it's a licensing fee
Yes,
for software.
yes, we pay yearly.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Harrington? Seeing none. We have a budget of $260,393, $23,663, 10% increase from the previous year. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8,
Oh, yeah, no.
1 nay, and
Insurance,
0.
26.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have insurance on page
Glad you're
26.
prepared, Phil.
And we are looking at a budget of $461,391, a $1,698 increase, or 0.37% increase of previous year.
Can you
It's on
repeat that?
page 26.
I'm seeing 470, 424. Unless there's an update I don't have.
I think we should ask the town administrator for what the updated number on that is, because this run, I think, was before they got the insurance numbers in.
I don't know, mine is dated November 9th.
Oh, you've got a
Yeah, I
different
don't have
run.
that one.
I've got a new one.
I didn't get that update.
I'll go with Mr. Von Hassel's run. His is,
Is that correct? 11/9 is the run date? Okay. Page 26.
I know what page. Thank you, Bill.
Okay.
For the insurance, the select board's number is $461,391.
That's the run of 11/9.
and 1130. It wasn't 1027.
$1,698 increase, a 30.37% increase in previous year, correct?
Yeah, move the question, it's not, you can't really debate it.
It's correct. Second, so Mr. Verval moves the question, Ms. Quinn seconds, all in favor? 9-0.
Sorry about the paper team.
Okay, personnel admin is page 15. Page 15.
Yeah.
Okay. No, this one is, we're coming up on it. Personnel admin is page 15. $106,880, $19,529 increase, 22.36% increase. Move the question.
What's that number again?
106,880.
106,880. And it's a 19,529 increase, 22.36%.
Basically FICA and Medi.
Yep. So I need somebody to,
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Dill moves, Mr. Verval seconds. Not much really to discuss on this. It's all pretty much statutory. So I'll move the question. Any,
I think we're all
Yeah.
voting.
oh,
We're all voting.
okay, all right. You're ahead of me. Okay, 9-0-0. This one I didn't know whether, this property assessment, does this come under you, John?
Yes.
It does, okay, all right.
What are you on now? I thought we were
I'm
on
on page 11,
11.
property
Sorry.
assessment. And it's a budget of $86,031, negative $6,284. It's a $6,284 decrease, and a decrease of 6.81% over the previous year.
Move the budget.
Move the budget. Who was that? Mr. Langlois?
Second.
Ms. Quinn, second. Okay, any discussions, comments? None?
If you raise your hands, you'll take a vote.
Anybody take a vote? So, take a vote on the budget, $86,031, a decrease of $6,284, or a decrease of 6.81% from the previous year. All in favor? Mr. Ryan?
It was everybody.
Yep, 0-0, okay.
Look at that, Phil.
And then,
John 17.
Planning and zoning 17.
See, that's where I was, and then I got confused.
who's confused? Okay, next one I had was planning board, planning and zoning. It's on page 17.
Move that in the amount of $45,522.
Second.
Yep.
So, I'm sorry, so Mr. Langlois moved, and
Dill, Mr. Dill.
I moved.
you,
Maureen
Mr. Dill
seconded.
moved, Maureen second.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, and it's a budget of $45,522, an increase of $720, or 1.61%. Any questions on this? I mean,
Shocking.
for the most part, it looks like most everything is coming in under dues and subscriptions, postage, and also legal services, which can go up or down, who knows?
As the backup says, you cannot estimate this line, it's either too much or not enough.
Right.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Verbal.
I just realized that the general public has missed out on a lot of comic relief as the camera is still focused on the small table.
Okay,
It's
well.
a shame to deny them the viewing pleasure of
Well,
the NBC in full regalia.
okay, I'm pushing the button and it's finally doing that, okay. At least we have the recordings, right?
Right.
So, yeah. All right.
Move the question.
All right, so Mr. Verval moves, Mr. Cresswell seconds, all in favor? Looks like, okay, 9-0-0. So the budget for $45,522, $720 increase, 1.61% for planning and zoning board is approved. And the last one I have is VZ Park. And is that a current run, John? I have 1020, I have
What page are we on?
1027. It's page 69.
I've got 39,977.
That's what I've got.
Is that it? Okay.
That is a correct number.
Okay, so we have VZ Park, 39,977, a $10,216 increase, a 34.33% increase from the previous year. Move the question.
So moved.
Mr. Langlois, okay,
I'll
and
just-
Jocelyn seconds.
And I'll just note that the VZ Park Commission has asked for the additional part-time lines for a number of years. So this is consistent with the request for the last 4 or 5 years.
The lifeguards, they have trouble finding.
Good luck.
Okay.
So for this, for the default, have they just been reducing the hours of the current staff?
They're overspending the line.
Yeah,
Oh, they're overspending that.
if they can keep the lifeguards. This year, they did better than the year before.
So, sorry, Ms. Quinn.
What's the contract, Clivus? What is that?
The contract is Silvilius contract is what we've got in the background.
That is to take care of the composting toilet on the ground.
Oh, boy.
That's why we have John here.
Yeah,
Good call, John.
well spent.
Yes, it is money well spent.
It would be very to not spend it.
Okay.
Second?
Yes, Mr. Cresswell moves the question. Mr. Dill seconds. All in favor? Looks like 9-0-0. So the VZ Park budget, 39,977. Increase of $10,216, 34.33% increase from the previous year's approved.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Verval.
I would request that we hold off the vote on the bottom line and the ballot recommendation until a meeting at which we have all 11 members. We've had all 11 members at the majority of our meetings, and it's better to give a nice full vote of the committee for the taxpayers, and we don't have to have that settled for quite some time. So I would request that we simply table that bottom, keep the updated bottom line table until we have all 11 members present, as a courtesy to all the members.
Yeah, I haven't totaled up the new bottom line just yet.
We don't usually do that warrant article vote until we do all the warrant article recommendations anyway, right?
Or we typically move the bottom line and then
Oh, okay.
we deal with the school and then you go back to,
That's what I was
you
thinking.
revisit it once, final
When we
time,
do
and then
all
deal
the
with the
warrant
warrants and all that
articles.
stuff. Yep.
Do we want to allow at least allow the town manager, sorry, town administrator, I always get those confused, to update and give us a complete run?
That's fine, that's fine. That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we've always done in the past.
That prevents a calculating error right now as we're typing it out on our phones.
Right.
Which we found out mine doesn't work so well.
So, unofficially, I have the bottom line 4,000, that's 4,680, that'd be great. 4,682,277, that's unofficial, but according to Samsung. Any other,
Well, yes.
Ms. Bradbury.
Given the lateness of the hour, probably we should take this up just sometime prior to the final vote on the overall budget, but I do think we need to reconsider, I'm not making a motion tonight, but I do think we need to reconsider the additional $18,000 we added to the health agencies line in order to ensure money for the medical examinations needed for the firefighters. I've done a little digging, and I think there's more information that will benefit us before we add that $18,000. I believe that physical that we're talking about is the NFPA, in pro words, it's November Foxtrot Papa Alpha
National Fire Protection.
1582, that physical, and to ascertain the actual cost of each physical and exactly how many of our firefighters need it, whether they had it from a previous employment situation or now. So that is something I'm going to ask to take up again, but not tonight.
So,
Because it's too late.
yearly. So,
So that's an annual physical that needs to be done.
From what I'm reading, everything I'm getting a baseline physical for the start of employment so that they can get the presumption that they didn't have cancer prior to joining a fire department. So that's exactly what I want to have us fully understand before we finalize the budget, because it is 18,000.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Verbo?
if I may, Ms. Bradbury, right?
Yes.
Sorry. Never forget a face, can never remember a name. So when, I know.
Good luck.
So when would you want to do that? At our next Tuesday
meeting.
meeting?
Next meeting. It's late.
Okay, so somebody's going to reach out to the fire chief. Do you need the
Yes,
fire chief
yes.
here? So reach out to the fire chief, invite him?
Yes.
Yeah, excellent. So I would, there's no rush. I mean, at this point, if anything, we're a little bit ahead of schedule, so.
We can add it in to the agenda for next week, but it, based on what Joanna's talked to me about here, I would say we need to maybe dig just a tad deeper into this. Fully support the fire department, but,
Absolutely.
We're
Yeah,
talking this.
if
but
the member has questions, I think we should take the time to
I
get
think
them
we should
answered.
perhaps delve into this just a little bit closer.
Certainly.
So, Mr. Dill?
We're talking the 7th for our next meeting, correct?
Say again?
The 7th,
Yes. Are
next
we-
Tuesday.
Next Tuesday. Are we all okay with canceling the
Oh, yes.
meeting?
There's nothing to do,
There's
right?
nothing really to do.
I don't believe you'd have a quorum.
Wouldn't have a
either.
quorum anyway.
We probably won't have anyone here anyway. So, yeah, if everyone's okay with that, we'll cancel that meeting and move forward to the 7th, December 7th at 6 o'clock here, and we'll pick up where we left off.
Mr. Chairman, just real quickly, when does the select board expect to start bringing in warrant articles to the MBC? Any idea on?
We're getting close. We've got a couple boards coming in to finalize them again, probably not the 7th. I'd say maybe the meeting after.
Okay, excellent, thank you.
But we're down to like 2 or 3.
Mr. Bilodeau?
We had discussed earlier that the school board's architect would come on the 7th, and we would schedule them at 6 o'clock to be first as a courtesy.
Sure, we can do that.
And I'll verify tomorrow. Hopefully we'll be able to verify. their
Shoot me an email and let
availability.
me know,
I'll send you an
so
email.
I can put that in the agenda for the 7th and go from there. I think honestly, we've wrapped up most of the items on the budget for now. So we can pretty much tie things up on the 7th and hopefully get onto the school budget. Okay?
Sure, I move to
Yes.
adjourn?
Second.
Ms. Quinn makes a motion to adjourn. There was a mutual second by Mr. Jill and Mr. Langlois, and we are adjourned at 8:10. Thank you.